We're just going to go ahead and roll right into our panel discussion. So let's have our esteemed guest go ahead and join us. Marco, make sure to grab that Budweiser beer that I see you're drinking. Just kidding. See, yes, there it is. It's a Miller. That's right. Brand integrity, folks. That's correct. Fireable offense. So we're going to go ahead and have them up. Now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the mental capacities of these alumni for a few more minutes and understand a bit. But we're also going to open it up to you. Are there burning questions? I want you to get something deep and weird. We'll come to you. I knew you would, Wayne. I like it. But we're going to go ahead and start with a lightning round question to add a little levity here, right? So I'm going to ask you, if you were going to be a cereal, a breakfast cereal, which one would you be and why? Let's go ahead and start here with Natalie. Thank you very much.
So this is a personal question. So I actually met my boyfriend during my time at ASU. He founded a company called Back to the Roots that happens to make the best cereal. It's Stone Ground Flakes. You can find it in Whole Foods, Amazon. No, but in all seriousness, it's fantastic. Back to the Roots is a company that's got a similar mission actually to a lot of the people here, kind of using waste streams and kind of getting people more educated about where their food and their products come from. So.
Love and cereal. Who would have known that the two of those go together? Katie.
I'm really terrible at icebreaker questions like this, but I'll like hark back to my time here at Arizona. I used to make granola, which is like the definition of granola. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and it's like some of those habits die really hard. So I would be my coconut almond granola. Okay.
So this is more than me being a cereal. It's more like that quirky taste for a seasonal cereal from General Mills that comes around Halloween, called the Count Chocula. So the Count Chocula arrived to Mexico in the early 2000s. So that was a hot commodity, right, in Latin America. Have some sort of cereal with marshmallows in between. So that was my pick. And when I came here, I was looking for it in the supermarket, and then somebody actually had to explain to me that was a seasonal offering from General Mills. So it's more the acquired taste of that.
Allie.
All right, I'd have to go with my favorite cereal growing up, which would be Captain Crunch. And both my sister and I ate that all the time as growing up, and we're both awesome school sustainability grads, so that's what powers us, I believe.
Delaney.
Professionally Raisin Bran, personally Lucky Charms.
You see, look, I mean, cereal can actually transcend just, sugar-coated bombs of happiness for the morning. But this actually gives you an insight to them. So let's roll into a bit more of this insight. You've graduated. You are out there. You are leading the change. What are two things that keep you up every night? That when you wake up at 2 a.m. and say, oh, my gosh, how does your sustainability training help achieve and surmount those obstacles? Don't everybody go at once.
Same order?
No, anyone can jump in by all means.
Well, I think that many, especially coming from a beer company, usually people think marketing and sports and that's it, right? You are partying all week long. And the reality is that companies have a lot of platforms and resources. When I came in and they showed me the research and development program, what they do with the farmers, all the community engagement, then you realize that there is more to all that partying, all that sports. That is good, that is fun, that is also part of the business, but it's not what defines the company. So I think that one of the things that we do, and many people are surprised of why we write grants to the federal government, so we can invest, let's say, $1 in conservation in Idaho, and then get 10 times more from the federal government. So many people just scratch their heads and they say, hey, why a beer company is partnering with an NGO, writing grants to the government, and even worse, landing federal funding that universities or other companies could actually be applying for. So all this to say that many companies, because you are typecast in your own industry or the product that you sell, they don't see that there is more inside that organization. So what keeps me awake at night is that we miss that opportunity. Right now, we talk to other companies, to the General Mills, to the guys at Campbell's, because now from an agricultural perspective, they know that field that today has barley, in the next rotation could be potato, and in the next rotation could be a sugar beet. So now they realize for the very first time in a long time that there are interdependencies among the companies. And again, if you are not there to have a seat in the table, then you are missing out the opportunity. So it's missing out, that fear of missing out in the opportunity.
Ryan, I'd like to push it over to you. You're operating in a place, according to the UN, is the second most difficult due to corruption to operate a business in the entire world, in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. How does sustainability help you approach challenges that you obviously, I would assume, face on a daily basis?
Well, I learned an important lesson recently. My car was lit on fire during a riot, and I realized I shouldn't be driving a car. I should be biking to work. So that's my solution there.
All right. Who's going to jump in next?
That is all true, actually, by the way.
Oh my God. I can answer what keeps me. It's actually really similar to what Marco said. I think what keeps me up the most at night is FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, if I'm not moving super fast and having the most productive packed days possible, that's an opportunity for someone else to potentially get ahead. And because, again, like at the core of what Hampton Creek is doing, it's all about impact. Like, I don't want Hellman's to sell more mayonnaise. Like, I want us to sell more just mayo, because I know that it's a better option for people and for the planet and sort of all of the above. So it's just that like competitive spirit of wanting to further your mission as fast as possible.
Ali gave a really great example, and by the way, thank you. Ali gave a great example earlier that sustainability can transcend just what you get from a paycheck and what you're paid to do. I'm interested, and Ali, feel free to jump in as well, but are there other areas outside of your 9 to 5, maybe when you go to the FOMO neighborhood, which is just south of SoMo in San Francisco? It's a bad joke if you're from the city. I'm interested, what are some of these things that you have a passion for outside of your 9 to 5, where you've been able to really use sustainability to make a difference?
Did you say Natalie or Ali?
Anyone can jump in on that.
Well, I already gave mine, so.
So I don't do much besides work. But Andrew's laughing at that. But it's kind of nice to think about using your colleagues and using the work platform to do some of those other more engagement and really like team building types of activities. So we launched like a volunteer time off program. We give everybody a day off a month to go do something in their communities, really like feed to that personal passion. And it's been really cool to see the team embrace that and do some really cool stuff on kind of the company's time and the company's dollar. And I think facilitating that with my own team, I have about 60 direct reports, and so really trying to foster that and let them know, like give them those permissions and give them those resources and really challenge them to think about their impact, not just in their day-to-day and what they're doing with Reformation, but what they can give back in their community. So we've been able to do some really interesting partnerships in Los Angeles around waterway cleanups and beach cleanups, which sounds so like corporate day at the beach, which is a little bit true, but we actually got an award from LA Waterkeeper for just how much time our team's actually committing to things like that, and getting some real impact when you have like the few hours across 200 to 250 people, thinking about really what that can look like even just outside the clothes that we make.
And I can just add on to that. So moving away into a new city for me, I thought that reaching out and finding friends as well as doing sustainability work can go hand in hand. So for me, it was researching a lot of volunteer groups and what's going on in Indiana with sustainability, which is more than you'd believe. So just going to meetings and joining groups, and you can find friends that way, as well as do more than just your 9 to 5.
Great. I know I saw a question or two here from the audience, so let's pivot back to the audience. Did I see one over here? Let's go ahead and keep it tight for time. What was the question, Wayne?
I what percentage of the bagasse are you using? And what do you do when you achieve 100% of the bagasse? Where do you go to next?
So our conversion rate between biomass to charcoal is about 28%. So meaning if we're making 28 tons or 28 kilos, for example, we're using 100 kilos of biomass input. Does that broadly answer it? I mean,
in terms of all the bagasse
what
waste in Haiti,
in all of
how
Haiti?
much of that are you using?
If you can get me reliable numbers on agricultural production in Haiti, I will give you a sack of charcoal as well. I mean, this is.
You're gonna owe me a sack of charcoal.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, I will give you 4 sacks of charcoal for that. No, I mean we've done our own nationwide surveys of this. It's just very difficult in the country. I mean, they haven't done a census in the country since 1972. It's very hard to find reliable information on anything, especially when you have so many smallholder farmers who, I mean, who knows who actually owns the land, and it's very informal. Based on what we've found, though, we can produce about 50% of the demand of the country's charcoal use with only sugarcane waste. But that's only 50. For the rest, we'd have to start moving towards corn waste, rice hulls, et cetera, other biomass options. But again, that's a kind of an estimate because it's tough to figure that out there.
That scale and opportunity will play to your benefit because once they do, it's charcoal for everybody. All right, another question from the audience. Who's got one? Yes.
Also, Brian, so aside from the money that is given with jobs, is there any part of the profit that stays within the community or give something to wider Haiti? And also, how do you manage education to consumers? Because there are other sources of charcoal. How do you
Yeah.
play that out?
So, well, okay, I'll start with the second one. Education for consumers, we call it marketing. And it's really important, but actually I was just talking about it with Dean Boone. When you're looking at customers who earn about $1 a day, the value of our charcoal being sustainable doesn't really click with them. They have so little money to spend that their priority is affordability and functionality, and they're very price sensitive. I could tell them, no trees were chopped in this, and they say, great, how much does it cost? I don't really care if they realize that chopping trees down is bad because they're on the front line of the environmental damage that is done from that. These are the people who live in the floodplains. So when it rains without trees, the floods are worse, et cetera. They viscerally get in a way that we have to read about what environmental change does to them. But they aren't able to take that to the marketplace and spend their money to make a difference there because they have, again, they're earning maybe $1 a day. So they don't have the luxury to change their day-to-day practices to make a difference with that unless we make our product cheaper. So it all comes down to price point for them. And so we make our product about 20% cheaper than wood charcoal, which makes marketing pretty easy when you're just as good and you're cheaper. So we've found that the more money our customers have, if we're talking to middle class, for example, they get and love the fact that no trees are chopped down. But that's not the bulk of our customer base. So.
I want to push this over to Marco. So Marco, your company Miller Coors. I mean, these could be legacy brands, right? Your grandfather drank Coors in the stubby bottle. Sometimes people may think of these mind-altering truth elixirs as affordable and effective. All right, see where I'm leading here? How do you, from a marketing, engagement, and customer perspective, how is Miller Coors going to drive sustainability? Because arguably, more beer being sold is probably a large corporate metric. So how is sustainability used to educate and drive the organization and positive outcomes at the same time?
Yes, I think that many companies, regardless their size, have the big challenge of if they have a team in place, if they have a strategy in place, even a report published every year, It's how do you go beyond the return on investment. Many companies start basic on the operation side. Reduce your emissions, reduce your energy, just the basics, waste, water, energy. But if you want to translate that value proposition into commercial relevance, that is very difficult because maybe that notion or that particular value don't resonate with all your consumer base. So this year, and this is something just new, first of all, there was a number of findings and study groups to look at the millennial consumer and what are they thinking in terms of beer, what are their offerings in terms of the occasions and what they might drink or not, depending on who they are with. And we found that many of them, they feel like, well, I kind of like a company that is trying to do things right, but I don't know if I really want to be completely involved with them. So case in point, we can have a group of potential consumers that go to the store and buy a case of beer. They enjoy it that night, but most likely that same group of customers are not going to be up tomorrow at 6 a.m. to do the next river cleaning, right? So
not after a case, that's correct.
Not after a case. So
Wow.
marketing says, so how do you at least try to classify your catalog that particular niche? So they didn't came with that term. The term was already in the marketing space about the slacktivist. So the slacktivist is that person that consumes a product from a brand that either has a reputation, that there has hard evidence that they are doing something good for the community or in larger waves, but they are not really, as a consumer, they are not ready or willing to walk the talk. So then we devise from that point of, so how do you turn an slacktivist into really somebody that wants to do something from them? So we took a brand like Leinenkugel's, that their value proposition is meeting us in the outdoors. Everything is canoeing, everything is in the outdoors. So we organize what we call friendly floats. So the friendly floats is just like here, floating in the river. We organize that, but we equip not only all the tires with beer, but with the equipment to essentially go and grab different debris, different materials. So we track at the end of that particular 1 2 hour ride all the debris, and we weigh it, we classify it, and we put it in the specific streams with the local partners. So the reality is that you start with consumer engagement, you are moving out product, and then you are able to make an impact, to quantify an impact for the community. The last thing that I want to mention is that after a lot of conversations with other brands, this year, later in the year, you will see that in the airwaves, Coors Light is coming out for the very first time with a sustainability platform. They have been quiet, they have been talking about the aluminum can and then the innovations on that, but this is the first time that a big name or a big brand inside the company will grab sustainability and will try to run for them. I think there is still a lot of fear, if you will, of if really sustainability should be something that is nice to do, but is not as mission critical to advance your market share. So I think that's still a big challenge for any company, regardless of their size.
Marco, thank you. I think we have an opportunity to brand the Salt River as Sudsy Salt. So if you're ever interested in doing that, just let everyone here know. So I want to wrap up the panel and do a bit of an inspirational close here before we have some other announcements. I want to know for you, you've done great work, you're inspiring others just by this, but your work transcends just what you do and actually inspires us here in the audience. So if you want to leave us with a word of wisdom, something to stand for, what would you say to all of us in the room?
Don't ever start a company in Haiti.
I would say don't lose your sustainability identity. And going into a company where I wasn't directly tied to sustainability, I was like, well, do I keep pushing this or should I just leave it outside of work? And I feel like it's a piece of me, and just never to let that die and let it foster with everything that you do. And so that would be my word of advice.
I think for me, it's really one of the early things that we learn in the school, in the program, to be inclusive, to really open the door to everybody. I think that even my arrival to the company was, by many measures, a surprise, It's like, what is this guy? He's not even from the beer industry. He's not even from beverage, and then has this degree in what? Sustainability? What's that? And the background. So I think that always openness, always inclusiveness, it's a huge component of sustainability. And we find, especially in this particular industry, we're usually typecast into camps, the big ones and the craft ones, and they don't talk to each other, or they rely. No, the reality is that it's not that sustainability becomes affordable as you grow and as you get big. The reality is that any of us can do sustainability in anywhere that we operate, as a volunteer, in your day job, in your personal life. So as you said, I totally agree, is don't lose that identity, don't lose those basic notions that were really the basic truths, if you will, that were shared with us the day we started here in the program.
I would say like say yes. Take on new things that you might not feel like is your background or your experience, but that you can add value to, or you can ask maybe similar questions you've asked before, or apply a similar skill set that you might have practiced, whether that's food waste audits or trash audits. You know, it's like you don't want to limit yourself on the front end. You know, I would have never thought I would work in fashion, let alone do some of the things I do in my day to day. And I think a lot of that was saying yes, having the confidence that I know what problems are kind of worth solving. We can ask some of those questions that we've been taught here and apply some of the tools or learn them along the way. And so don't like pre-limit yourself based on your existing experience or even what you think your interest might be, because I think by being willing to say yes and go through some of those different pathways, you experience completely new opportunities and can actually grow your impact even more than you might think.
I would just say generally follow your heart. Like not everything is extremely logical. Like starting a company in Haiti, even if Ryan advises against it, or like selling dirt or mayonnaise. It's kind of risky. Like these are startup companies, or even working for a big company. You could feel discouraged by it. But if there's something deep within you that says this feels right, even if there's a different option that's very linear thinking, you can see how it would play out really easily. Just follow your heart and your instinct, and you'll find a way to blossom through it.
And because I don't actually think anyone in here is planning on starting a company in Haiti, and if you are, talk to me. But the best lesson that I've learned is fail small and fail often. Make a lot of mistakes. Don't make too big mistakes, but make them and learn from them and keep moving forward.
Well, first off, let's give a huge, big hand to our panelists. Thank you very much. So I hope that you enjoyed this today. We are going to hand this back to Stephanie in just a brief moment, but I know on behalf of the dean, on behalf of all the leadership, we are thankful to you, graduates, for the great work that you're inspiring. Thankful to all of you here in the audience for your continued support in driving our mission of sustainability forward for the next 10 years and 1,000 years of impact and legacy.